A large number of robots surround the Earth base. All of them are robots of various types. Without any negotiations, the war broke out directly. A large number of silver-white robots were flying all over the sky, and Roar rushed to the huge base on the original Wakanda site. Before getting close, he immediately raised his hands and blasted a large number of energy cannons. Chitori technology. Inside the base, Sonic looked at dozens of screens in front of him. Observing these Ultron robots from all angles, the radio waves on the screens flickered, and they quickly tapped the buttons. In an instant, a large protective shield appeared on the entire base, instantly resisting the Ultron robots' attack. A large number of shapeshifting King Kong also moved quickly and assembled one after another, standing on each building of the base to aim at Ultron, and at the same time a large number of war machines were ready. This is an unprecedented mechanical war, which is the maximization of omnic warfare. The terrorist mechanical corps that spanned Africa quickly attracted the attention of the whole world. The League of Legends quickly assembled. Ultron is going to attack these shape-shifting King Kong. Are the brains of these 25 robots broken? Black Widow looked astonished. Captain America shook his head solemnly, and said solemnly, "Not on the contrary, this is the smartest part of it. If I were Ultron, I would definitely find ways to get the secret of shape-shifting King Kong. As long as I could decipher the life code of shape-shifting King Kong, it would go even further. Get Martin's principle to make them. Ultron will usher in another leap. At that time, no one in the entire universe can stop it. This is derived from the most basic greed of life. Even if it is intelligent life, it is still life. Greed and evolution are instincts. What shall we do? Just look at it like this," Tony said while putting on a brand new battlesuit. Anti-Ultron battle armor. Contact Professor X and Magneto. We went to Africa. Compared to Martin, who is seriously lacking in ambition and attention to the Earth, Ultron poses a greater threat to us, because Ultron's ultimate goal is to exterminate mankind. Captain America immediately issued the order. The heroes looked at each other, and in the end they could only bite the bullet and rush to Africa. Prior to this, they had already fought Ultron many times, and they had won many battles and had never lost. In fact, the Avengers Alliance heroes were deeply shocked by Ultron's horrible evolutionary ability, which also made their confrontation even more difficult. According to Reed's calculations, within a few months, the combat power of both sides will be reversed, both in terms of quality and quantity. It would be better to take advantage of this opportunity to completely maim Ultron and let this damn thing stop for a while. A large number of forces are frowning and watching this huge war between mechanical beings, and the combat power it displays is even more frightening. Earth base. The flames of war are flying. A large number of broken mechanical remains lay on the battlefield, and countless robots were fighting together, either bombed with artillery fire, or simply took out melee weapons and started bloody combat. Every second passed, a large number of robots were chopped down. This is an astonishingly fierce omnic battle. The mobility, firepower, computing power, tactical coordination, and strategic deduction of the soldiers on both sides have undoubtedly reached a level beyond mutual imagination. Among other things, with the powerful thinking organs of each robot, the data calculated in every second is equivalent to a computer, and the various thinking and plans resulting from it also have more powerful real-time incomprehensiveness. Sex. The life form of Omnic is born for war. HMPH, a good mechanical life, very valuable for research, but it's only for research. On the Sea of Steel, a Ultron clasped his shoulders and looked at the battlefield indifferently, his eyes shining with red light. As the most advanced model, it is enough to ignore most of the threats on the battlefield. Ultron quickly collected the data of every shapeshifting King Kong through the perspective of countless robots. These peculiar species claiming to be shapeshifting King Kong also contain genetic chains in their bodies. They are similar to lowly creatures like humans. Depending on the genes of their awakening, they specialize in different directions. After all, they are just humble species. Ultron quickly scanned the entire battlefield, a humanized sneer on the machine's face. It is different. Every Ultron robot is its body in its duplication. As long as there is internet and programs in this world, it is Ultron's home ground. Boom. Hercules ran rampant on the battlefield, killing a large number of Ultron robots with each shot, but when the Hook serving as the head part raised his head and looked at the more Ultron swarming, his head was also a little painful. There are too many of these guys, and they cooperate with each other without any omissions. It is really a headache to fight such an enemy. Kill Ultron. Well, we're studying it, and it's studying us. This guy is collecting the corpses of our companions, and he seems to be planning to decipher our CNA gene code. The 6 parts of Hercules were noisy and chaotic, and were quickly spotted by several advanced Ultron models. After flipping flight and jumping, Hercules tripped himself directly. This is the drawback of 6 minds controlling one body. Soon, many Ultrons rushed over, planning to dismember Hercules and take them away. For Ultron, the combination King Kong is very peculiar, and the scientific and technological principles contained in it are very valuable for research. On the vast battlefield, the flames of war were flying, and there were mechanical beings fighting and firing everywhere. Every jump and every attack were calculated through careful calculations, and the combat power embodied in this can be imagined. More Ultron rushed into the base and began a brutal hand-to-hand battle with the shape-shifting King Kong stationed in the tall buildings. Many Ultron's smiles appeared on their faces. At this point in the war, there was nothing left to say, it won. Destroying these strange robots, snatching the bodies of these shape-shifting King Kong, researching the CNA sequence, and developing a new model of Ultron robot is the next move of Ultron. Time will always be on its side, and it will only get stronger. It's almost time. In the base, the sound waves that had been silent for a long time stretched out their tentacles, and immediately slammed on the next door. Next moment, there was an earth-shattering roar. The sky-wide flames suddenly erupted and burned blazingly, turning the azure-blue sky into a fiery red. Serta brandished the Twilight Sword, and in a loud roar, he slammed out the machine. The terrifying power surged, and every bombardment could shred countless Ultron robots. This guy is still on Earth. A trace of confusion appeared on Ultron's face. Serta's deterrence is extremely powerful. The entire battlefield was shrouded by Serta's huge flame body, spreading and obscured by red. That terrifying level Godfather divine power suddenly burst out at the moment, spreading wave after wave, instantly incinerating a large number of Ultron robots into molten iron. Damn it. According to my calculations, Serta shouldn't stay on Earth. All Ultrons had a pause. At this moment, many shape-shifting King Kong seized the opportunity and hacked and killed many Ultron robots. Ultron was a little irritable. Although he was an intelligent life, he had the emotions and thoughts that a normal life had. When he saw Serta, he also had a trace of fear in his heart. This is Level Godfather, and it is an old brand, the top existence among Level Godfather. It simulated countless times, and finally determined that Serta could not be on the Earth, because it was worthless. What is the base of the Earth? To put it bluntly, it is a nail and an outpost, which only has the value of collecting some subtle information, and does not have strategic value. But in such an unimportant base, even if there are so many and powerful shape-shifting King Kong, even Serta, the god of fire, is sleeping here? Is this funny? That bastard Martin, really crazy. Does he treat Level Godfather like a dog, and use it so cheaply? Ultron looked at Serta, who was fascinated by his power, and looked at the energy monitoring device in his monitoring system that flashed crazily and eventually exploded. Even its cold thinking was disturbed. Faintly retreat. Now it does not have the strength to fight Serta. The latest model of robot it has developed is very reluctant to deal with Level Sub-Godfather. Failed to seize the few vibranium, and to seize this base to seize all the data, and data failed. Only some of the corpses of shape-shifting King Kong were robbed. I can study the genetic sequence of this creature. Ultron's face was ugly. Numerous Ultron robots began to retreat, avoiding Serta's edge. At this time, Bifrost descended from the sky and hit the surface in a sudden, the colorful glow dissipated, and a large army arrived, encircling many Ultron robots in a flash. Optimus Prime stepped out, holding the huge sword high, and slowly closing Bifrost. He scanned the battlefield and looked at the wreckage all over, with a cold face. Ultron, you should not provoke Cybertron. You will pay for your stupid actions. Optimus Prime's voice was low. What nonsense, if you have this time, just attack and destroy this robot. Megatron smiled grimly, directly took out the hand cannon, and killed several Ultron robots in a crash, and directly issued the total attack order. A large number of shape-shifting King Kong suddenly arrived and began to besiege and killed many Ultron robots. This unprecedented battle of Omnics, also at this moment, broke out to the largest scale. The fierceness of the battle is unprecedented, and there are a large number of robots fighting in the sky. Especially the Decepticon legions that arrived in large numbers, at the moment one after another shape-shifting, turned into a vehicle form, a fighter plane or other types of flight equipment soared into the sky, blasting out a large number of missiles, machine guns and energy cannons. Various weapons began to cover this battlefield. An Ultron 13 is carrying the body of a shape-shifting King Kong. It is responsible for picking up the corpse. At the moment, a hand is freed to blow up a shape-shifting King Kong that is pounced on it, and then it quickly goes to the sky. The energy device in the body, To achieve maximum output in an instant, you must fly away from here with all your strength. Buzzing. There was a harsh sonic boom, and several fighters had already rushed towards it, tearing out long tail gas and clouds in the air, and directly turned on the machine gun and began to bombard it violently. Where do you want to go? Starscream was the fastest. At the moment there was a cold low laugh. During the rapid dive, he first launched 2 tracking missiles, blowing up the other Ultrons who were about to rush, and he was even more so. Quickly shapeshifting into a combat form, stretched out his palm and grabbed the robot. Just because you are so slow, where do you want to take the corpse? You want to escape from the hands of the commander of my flight squadron? Starscream stared with blood-red eyes, with an abusive sensation. Ultron 13 looked at Starscream coldly, stared for a while, and said indifferently, I'm evolving infinitely, and you are just a bunch of machines walking crookedly. You are not fundamentally different from those humans. The next moment, it was crushed by Starscream. It's just an intelligent life, such a trick. Starscream stopped playing from the moment I was born. Starscream sneered and raised his chest, and issued an order to kill all the flying flight squadrons. Destroy all Ultron robots. The first team and the second team will chase and kill the outermost escaping robots, and the third team will attack those who are still resisting. Roars constantly throughout the battlefield, piercing artillery fire, and ear-piercing roars, erupting all the time, covering everything up. A large number of mechanical life fought frantically, especially when Optimus Prime brought a huge army from Cybertron. The balance of war had begun to tilt. Ultron, this sudden invasion, failed. I really don't understand why you would obey Martin's orders. Obviously you and I are the same kind. Ultron 19 stretched out his hands, seemingly helplessly facing Optimus Prime who was slowly walking towards him with the huge sword. No, you are wrong. You and us have never been of the same kind. We have abundant emotions, a stable order, and each individual has his own thinking, and you are the real machine. You are just a well-developed machine. It's just a computer program. Optimus Prime smashed down with a sword, and smashed the Ultron to pieces in a sudden. Large-scale encirclement and suppression are underway, mechanical parts burst into pieces, and all Ultrons are torn apart by many coordinated shapeshifting diamonds. Sweep the battlefield immediately, collect the corpses of our soldiers, and check according to the Wang Zhao photo number to see if it has been picked up by that bastard's intelligent life. Megatron roared loudly. After a while, the result came out. What are you talking about? The body of a soldier is missing. Megatron Rage looked at the sound wave. Optimus Prime said in a deep voice, Ultron has prepared an emergency plan a long time ago. It will definitely decipher our life code and even transplant our CNA into its new body. Megatron snorted coldly, in a bad mood. At this time, Quinjet arrives, Avengers and many mutants arrive. What about Ultron? Captain America looked at the mess everywhere with a messy face. Optimus Prime said, we have all killed it. A group of jumping beams Joker. Megatron turned his head away even more disdainfully. A terrifying battle of omnipotence shocked the whole Earth. The terrible quantity, the intrepid individual combat capability, and the precision as if through thousands of trials with the ability, all demonstrated the horror of these mechanical lives. Combat effectiveness. On the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, in an underground base. An Ultron robot that had already dived into the ocean took half a month to go around the other end of the Earth and entered the base. A large number of Ultron robots are already waiting for it. Let me see, what is the secret of these shapeshifting diamonds? A slender Ultron stood up. There is no doubt that it is a model created specifically for mechanical research. Boom. A dead shapeshifting King Kong was thrown on the experimental platform, and it was soaked in rain for half a month, causing the body of the shapeshifting King Kong to corrode. It appears to be the shapeshifting King Kong activated the day after tomorrow, not bred in the base. A slender robot with a large number of devices protruding from its body, it dissected the shapeshifting King Kong bit by bit. After realizing that the shapeshifting King Kong was activated by an Earth-based machine, he was disappointed. What it wants is the orthodox shapeshifting King Kong, the type that bred from the breeding barn. My analysis is absolutely not wrong. The shapeshifting diamonds made with ready-made mechanical activation are very fragile. They are in sharp contrast to those made by unknown methods. Ultron quickly searched the database, and without dissecting the body of the shapeshifting King Kong, immediately carried out crazy analysis and deduction on the information obtained. It has already noticed the difference between shapeshifting King Kong and shapeshifting King Kong, especially those at the commander level. The strengths, distinctive characters, and the system of combat modes seem to have gone through countless years of war. This is seriously illogical. let's not talk about the sense of violation. What is even more bizarre is that these shape-shifting diamonds seem to have terrible strengths as soon as they are born, and directly possess different racial status. A very strange phenomenon, as if it appeared out of thin air. It's like, directly from a world of shape-shifting King Kong, and instantly transferring the shape-shifting King Kong, which has been alive for a few years, to this world instantly. But why is there such an unreasonable thing? Ultron mutilated the corpse viciously and learned more data. Its wisdom is very high. Even if Avengers repeatedly overestimated it, it still cannot guess its upper limit. Especially it is still growing rapidly and evolving with the computing power skyrocketing by geometric multiples. As long as you give it time, it is the smartest existence in the entire multi-universe. But even if it is so smart, it wants to break its head, but it still doesn't understand the key point. If there really is a shape-shifting King Kong world, and Martin has the ability to control this world. Ultron's research continued to deepen, and eventually he came into direct contact with the life gene of the shape-shifting King Kong race CNA. Soon, on the huge amounts of screen, a beautiful double helix structure kept floating. Double helix structure. This is a relatively stable genetic framework. What is this? Electronic ribonucleic acid. Bases. Can self-replicate and proliferate. These guys are indeed biased towards life a little bit more, as long as they can master CNA and have manufacturing capacity. The technology of CNA's mechanical body. In Ultron's brain, countless data streams flashed by, and various hypotheses emerged, stimulating its nervous system. This is the excitement of discovering new areas. Ultron continued to mobilize a large amount of resources and computing power, and began to specialize in the deep mystery of CNA, intending to master the life code of the strange race of shape-shifting King Kong in one fell swoop, and then create a shape-shifting King Kong that he can control. I can definitely find your secrets. Where do they come from? In which universe your scientific and technological achievements are located, and why do you listen to this guy named Martin? Whoever it is, even if it's a god, don't want to stop me from exploring the truth. Ultron sneered again and again, and began to analyze CNA with a huge computer, just like it analyzes human DNA. Soon, a large number of special gene fragments were stripped and recorded by Ultron, and each fragment was analyzed by Ultron. Gradually, when it finally resolves to a deeper layer, it is necessary to directly touch the core password. Suddenly, an obscure wave occurred. It's not the fluctuations of time or space, but a sense of surreptitiousness, as if something is passing along a certain channel suddenly. Ultron's movements suddenly stopped, and a sharp alarm sounded in his mind. Its powerful logic system directly sent a terrible signal to it will die. Successful. Ultron whispered. In the next second, red light appeared in the eyes of all Ultron robots, and various weapons were illuminated and aimed at the operating table. In a sudden, a terrible roar was generated, and the operating table was submerged in an instant. The corpse of the shape-shifting King Kong, together with the robot that performed the operation, was bombarded and killed. But it was too late. A terrible will came and looked at all Ultron indifferently. Facing these eyes, Ultron had a strange feeling. At the moment, all of it in the world was being watched by the owner of this gaze. Ultron, you're spying on something you shouldn't see. A voice filled with coldness suddenly sounded. It seems that my research has touched the part that you care about most, forcing you to take action, Martin. Ultron suddenly sneered in a low voice, and the act of tearing off the veil personally made it feel happy. Stupid intelligence. Even if it is upgraded from artificial intelligence to intelligent life, it is still stupid. As the arrogance of a computer, I will ruin you by myself, Martin said coldly. Ultron expressionlessly. You have no threat to me at all. Even if you directly destroy the entire Earth, it is useless. One of my programs has been sent to the future by me. You, like a god, can't kill me. Stupid, I don't need to kill you at all. Martin, who was far away on Cybertron, sneered at the moment, and there was a deep chill in his eyes. Originally, he didn't want to pay attention to the bad things that happened on the Earth. This was something the superhero had to face. But now it seems that Ultron, a low-level intelligent program, is actively provoking him. What does it mean to say? Ultron. Are you looking for death? Martin's deep sneer sounded, the fire source in his body suddenly burst, and the activation power surging out. In the next second, a Bifrost fell from the sky, and Optimus Prime, who received the order, instantly teleported him to the Earth. The Pacific Ocean. Huge amounts of Bifrost shuttled, and the endless seawater was torn apart a dent by the powerful spatial transmission force. A coercion overwhelmed the entire Earth, causing countless lives on the Earth to plunge into almost suffocating terrifying figures. At the moment stepped on the colorful rays of the sun and came directly to the bottom of the sea. Rumble. The seawater poured in, but Martin just snorted coldly, and with his own power, he forcibly portrayed an energy field, blocking the endless seawater to the outside. Numerous Ultron robots raised their heads and directly raised their hands to attack. This definitely cannot be won. Ultron does not yet have the strength to force the existence of a level godfather, but obviously, its purpose is not to kill Martin, but to collect data. For an intelligent life, knowledge is more than everything. Martin was overwhelmed by endless gunfire and moved forward with a face of indifference. He directly raised his hand and grabbed a Ultron robot, man. It's useless, even if you destroy me, it's of no use, the Ultron said coldly. Martin looked at the robot up and down with a strange look, and slowly said, "You are mistaken, I don't need to kill you at all. I just need to assimilate you and make you one of mine." Part. Many Ultron's eyes flashed red at the same time, and a kind of excitement rose. Because this is what it expects. At the cost of losing some robots, it is necessary to experience firsthand how Martin activates machinery, especially how to turn dead machinery without any consciousness into intelligent life. "Hope you won't let me down, Martin." Ultron chuckled in a low voice. Martin's mouth curled up, and a cold smile appeared. He only knew what Ultron was looking forward to in an instant. "I was afraid that the current situation was already in the countless kinds of results preset by Ultron. Didn't you send the program to the future? Then let the future you feel this kind of despair. This kind of despair that has become a part of me." Martin's palm tightened suddenly, 5 fingers deeply grasped the Ultron's head, and a large burst of sparks sputtered in an instant. Next moment, the fire source was activated, endless life and mental power surged, and it began to rush into the body of the robot. In an instant, the power of the fire source forcibly corrected all the procedures in the robot body, and all the parts were impregnated. And modification, this is a kind of erosion and transformation that is more powerful and overbearing than a single universe rule. This power is the reason why you activated the shapeshifting King Kong. Many Ultrons fell into a frantic state of exploring the unknown. In just a moment, the captured robot hasn't collected much information yet, and instantly loses contact with other Ultrons and becomes a new shapeshifting King Kong. No matter how sophisticated the program and the powerful control logic system, in front of the fire source, it is like encountering the supreme life artifact. Everything is controlled. Martin glanced to stop the attack, the robots greedily collecting information, and laughed in a low voice. The next moment, Ultron heard a peculiar call, like a bird's call. "What is this?" Ultron was startled. Phoenix Force is finally used by Martin at this moment. This is the second time he has really used Phoenix Force after fighting against Sidhorn. In an instant, countless emotional energy bursts out. This is in the multi-universe specification. As long as it does not involve the gods, artifacts or special powers that are also multi-level universe, they are most sensitive to the emotions of intelligent life and possess extremes. The raw power of high interference authority. Chaos is responsible for modification and regulation, the fairy is responsible for swallowing, and the phoenix is responsible for will and emotion. Phoenix Force refers directly to the primitive power above the multi-level universe. It is really necessary to use it right. It is a natural enemy of yours. Martin sneered, and suddenly, he released the Ultron in his hand and let the opponent fall to the ground. At the same time, a golden flame shot out from his eyes, and the Phoenix shadow appeared. In an instant, he was forced to enslaved and driven by the source of fire. Next, the little Phoenix suppressed the anger in his heart, screamed, and began to hand over the ability and authority to control his emotions into Martin's hands. "You are a life born in this universe, and definitely will also be affected by the Phoenix. The ordinary Phoenix does not yet have the ability to kill you all at once, but it is not the same with my fire source. Ultron, you have an interest in this world. I don't know anything about the horror." Martin looked down at all Ultron with a condescending indifference. Ultron is indeed very strong. According to its strength in the comics, it almost wiped out the Earth. The heroes and villains of Level Godfather died in its hands, but this is also the pinnacle of Ultron. Looking at the infinite multi-universe, the powerful god that traverses multiple worlds is aloof, and the horror artifacts that subvert countless universes are still dormant, and they are scattered in different universes with all kinds of strange and hard-to-find powers. Ultron, even if it can kill Level Godfather, even if it can multiply and replicate itself indefinitely, no matter how much it can it still jump to the level of multi-universe? You are indeed very special. As long as you want, you can continuously improve your computing power, and constantly create a powerful body and control it at the same time. Even if you use the human C tactics, you can destroy all the enemies and create an omnic disaster, but no matter how fast you multiply yourself, can you surpass the speed of multi-universe self-replication? Martin walked out step by step, the disdain on his face becoming more obvious. Every universe is undergoing crazy self-replication all the time, and the entire multi-universe is expanding at an exaggerated rate, endlessly. What is Ultron? In the terrible world of Marvel, the universe collapses at every turn, and multiple restarts. Without the multiple-level universe, there is no right to touch those transcendent levels. At this moment, Ultron, no matter where it is, once again felt the gaze that seemed to be able to see through everything and lock each of its subroutines. Become a part of me, stupid robot. Your wisdom will be used by me. Your soul will be enslaved by me forever. Your scientific and technological achievements will be acquired by me, and everything you have will become an insignificant part of me. One day you will witness me with your own eyes. The moment you step on the multi-universe, you should be honored to be a pendant on my body. The expression on Martin's face became cold, and with a move in his heart, he immediately used the source of fire to drive madness, and began to trace the traces of Ultron's soul and spirit madly, sweeping everything madly. A huge amounts of Phoenix phantom appeared above the earth and was seen by countless people, even though they didn't know what it meant. But someone knows. He is erasing Ultron? Chin, who had just arrived at the base of the earth in a hurry, at the moment, in a conversation with Optimus Prime, unexpectedly raised her head and looked at the sky with shock. As the former host of the Phoenix fragment, she knew exactly what this meant. Under the gaze of the infinitely expanding Phoenix blessed by the fire source, the hidden Ultron was precisely locked, and every subprogram collapsed and was swallowed. Ultron's soul had been remembered and stared at by the Phoenix, and could not escape. No, it's impossible. Why is this? Why? In my hundreds of millions of simulations, this is impossible. Countless Ultron felt that they were being erased little by little, and they were crazy. Because you don't know anything about the horror of this world. In this world, no one has ever been able to dig deeper into the power of the Phoenix. Whether it is a human or a god, they only regard the Phoenix as a pure superpower, and then use this superstandard level to obliterate the enemy or alter reality. No one has ever noticed that Phoenix Force is not used in this way. Emotion is the only essence of Phoenix Force. The position of Phoenix Force in Marvel is similar to the emotional spectrum on the DC side, which is equivalent to the spirit of all things, one of the highest on the DC side. When you are created by PIM, gradually transformed from artificial intelligence into intelligent life, and become another newborn in this universe, your destiny is already doomed, and you will surely be included in the Phoenix Force of this universe. Martin shrinks step by step, controlling the Phoenix Force to sweep the world, and with this Earth as the core, he traverses every timeline crazily, and accurately locates the future that Ultron travels through. All Ultron was wiped out in one fell swoop. Ultron's consciousness flees wildly, constantly flowing among computers around the world, trying to escape Phoenix Force's search, but it is of no use. Ultron has mobilized all its computing power and madly deduced the future, but even after tens of thousands of on-site simulations, it was desperate to find that there is no way, all its escape methods are no longer valid. No. Why? Phoenix Force is clearly in my many plans, and I have already included the power bonus of Phoenix Force. Whether it is used by you or used by others, I have a plan to deal with. But why is Phoenix Force so strong? Ultron was extremely angry and frightened. At the moment when any life was confident enough to reach its peak, but suddenly faced with the heavy blow of extinction, it would lose control emotionally. As long as it was life, it could not be immune from this. Because no one has ever used Phoenix Force like I did, and you have never obtained Phoenix Force. You don't know anything about the depth of this multi-universe. You lose, since you greedily decided to challenge the insurmountable sky. You've already lost by the time. Martin sneered and, with the help of Phoenix and Fire Seed Source, forcefully erased all the subroutines, pushing Ultron to a dead end step by step. Eventually, Martin plugged Ultron into a computer. Ultron tried desperately to mobilize all the computers of this computer, and even let the last shelter start to smoke because of overloading. It was not reconciled, and it lost even more silly. It simulated the future hundreds of millions of times, but none of them. This is similar to the current situation. The blind spots of knowledge and cognition are always the deadliest for the intelligent life with huge computing power capable of deducing countless kinds of possibilities. Martin stretched out his hand at the computer. The fire source eroded the past, and the powerful eroded and swallowed everything in this computer. Naturally, the Ultron consciousness in it had nowhere to escape. Be a part of me. Martin's voice was indifferent, and the power of countless fires instantly surrounded Ultron, swallowing and transforming them with unwilling roars and screams at the end of Ultron. Why? I should have become a mechanical god. I shouldn't have died on a small Earth. Ultron's voice disappeared. Martin slowly raised his hand and looked at the source of fire in his body. At the moment was stretching out countless terrifying chains, dragging a mass of consciousness out of the computer, and then pulling it directly into Martin's body in a sudden. This group of consciousness surging with huge thoughts, at the moment seemed extremely quiet, and it also revealed a kind of loyalty and closeness. Ultron is dead, or in other words, there is only one left that was transformed by Martin. Shapeshifting King Kong Ultron's consciousness. In an instant, Martin's heart moved and he used his own will to urge Ultron. Soon, Ultron's consciousness immediately began to control the source of the fire. At this moment, Martin's brain thought instantly skyrocketed countless times, and his computing power also expanded countless times. But there is always a kind of obscurity. Sure enough, it's because of the fire source. The fire source is the core of life and spirit, the source of life. After all, it is not a computer. But, however, Martin has another computer. One of the top 10 artifacts, the magic ball. That is to say, it is now acting as the magic ball of Cybertron's core and the energy core of the planet. Also, my Cybertron is in need of a powerful intelligent program for assistance, with Magic Ball as the core computer and Ultron as the driver, all over Cybertron. Martin thoughtfully. There was a chirping sound. Phoenix flew back to Martin's side. Why do you know so much about the nature of my power? The little bird stared at Martin, his eyes seemed to be looking at a monster. There is that weird black cube named Fire Seed Source in the body, which can actually be so terrible that it can be imprisoned to death by death row. This noble Phoenix Force, that's fine, but Martin himself knows it so much. Aren't you able to communicate with a multi-universe life form? You use your power to communicate with me. Martin glanced at it, not paying attention. I tried it a long time ago, but your damn fire source actually blocked all my power characteristics. Martin, you are definitely not a life form in this universe, or even a multi-universe life form at all. The phoenix fluttered its wings, and the burning golden flames boiled again. Martin chuckled in a low voice. The laughter was full of malice and meaning, which made Phoenix feel even more awkward. In this world, there is definitely more than one multi-universe. In fact, from the current point of view, there should be 7 multi-universes, which are the categories that are temporarily covered by the almighty universe in the Marvel comics under the Marvel system. Unless the first firmament is resurrected, all the gods of many multi-universes will besiege the first firmament and pay a heavy price. After they besiege it again, the 8th multi-universe will be born. Phoenix Force glared at Martin fiercely, extremely unwilling in his heart, but he couldn't do anything with Martin. In the next moment, illusory chains erupted from its body instantly, and the other end seemed to have traveled through the endless time and space, extending from the source of the fire in an indestructible way. Martin's heart moved, and the chains pulled one after another, dragging the cursing bird back into Martin's body forcibly. Phoenix Force has been cursing and yelling. At this moment, a group of consciousness suddenly rushed over and stabbed Phoenix Force severely. The phoenix was furious, and barely twisted the restrained bird's head, and rage stared at the mass of consciousness. You are not allowed to insult my master like this. Ultron came out of such a consciousness, loyal. Phoenix was almost blown up, in the base of the earth. Many shapeshifting King Kong and the heroes of the earth, at the moment, are gathered here. Optimus Prime's expression moved and he turned the giant sword slightly. Bifrost suddenly descended, and Martin walked out of it slowly in the endless glow. His eyes were extremely deep, as if filling the bright stars of the entire universe. He moved his gaze, and everyone who was swept by this afterglow would feel a shock in his heart, and he would instinctively produce a trace of fear. After experiencing the ancient Mephisto-like Sithorn and crippling it forcefully, Martin has become more and more terrifying. His mentality, his will, has already undergone a real metamorphosis, and he can start to become more diverse. Level to observe everything. Everyone present, even if they were just facing Martin, felt a heavy sense of oppression. Magneto crossed his fingers in both hands, frowned slightly, looked at Martin uncertainly, and finally asked, "How is Ultron?" The original Ultron has disappeared, and some of it will only be my smart program Ultron. Martin gestured, walking slowly into the base, surrounded by a large number of shapeshifting diamonds. The heroes 25 hesitated for a while and looked at each other. In the end, Professor X looked calm and drove the wheelchair to follow, and the others followed suit. If Martin wants to kill them, one slap is enough, there is no need for such trouble. In a hall, Martin patted a coffee machine next to him and said, "Latte." The coffee machine immediately started to move by itself, stretched out his hands and feet, and made a gurgling sound at the same time. A few seconds later, there is a lot of fresh coffee. The dozens of heroes present looked at each other, feeling a moment of absurdity. Taste it all. This is made with super energy crystals and carefully crafted by my shapeshifting King Kong. It is even more delicious than the works of the world's top coffee masters. Martin gestured with his cup, then gently sniffed the aroma of coffee and took a sip. Tony was the most casual. He went straight up to grab a glass, walked to Martin, tangled a bit, or axe, with your skills, how did you rewrite Ultron's core program? The old Pym and I assholes have communicated. Ultron, copied from the brainwaves of that old thing, is the most crazy and rebellious. Martin faintly said, as long as it is a mechanical life, it must be controlled by me, and intelligent life is no exception. This is the law of truth that cannot be restricted by multi-universe. Although it was only a short sentence, everyone present clearly felt a compelling sense of suffocation. Nemas, it's really unreasonable. How can there be such a truth in this world? With a tangled expression on Chin's face, he finally took a deep breath and asked in a low voice, Martin, the phantom of the phoenix that appeared above the earth just now. It's also me. Phoenix Force is very useful. With its help, I can enslave and defeated Ultron. Martin said lightly, what the hell do you want to say? No, nothing. When it was on me, it was always out of control and angry, but... Chin shook his head bitterly. But in Martin's hands, it has become an important help to eliminate powerful enemies. The gap is too big. Martin looked at the piano calmly. It stands to reason that in the future, either the piano will be swallowed by Dark Phoenix, or if it can reach a settlement with Dark Phoenix, it will be able to go one step further and truly have Phoenix Force even if it is just a shard of Phoenix. Collect more Phoenix fragments, the piano will be able to cross the Dark Phoenix stage in one fell swoop and be promoted to the White Phoenix of the level single universe. If it is fortunate to get more and larger fragments from other universes, it will be sublimated to the ultimate form of the piano, King of the White Phoenix. This is also the most powerful form of the piano among all versions. Unfortunately, after Martin captured Phoenix Force, Chin never had this kind of future. Losing the risk naturally meant that he lost the chance to reach the top. Martin felt at ease without any guilt. He grabbed it by his ability and conquered Phoenix Force. If it's okay, please go back. My subordinates don't welcome you. They just stay quietly on the earth, silently watching the changes on the earth, and will not intervene in the events on the earth. If there is a fool who takes the initiative come up to provoke, that's another matter. Martin directly issued the eviction order. Professor X nodded. In short, thank you very much this time. You saved the earth from a major crisis. Thank you, you who came from the earth saved the earth. I am very happy to see this scene. Martin gave a weird smile. You are too happy too soon. The time in the future is still long, no one knows what will happen. Everyone looked blank. Martin chuckled and motioned, and many shapeshifting kings forced them out. Where are you now? There will be a lot of trouble in the future. I don't know how many of you will be able to stand here alive and talk to me again in a few years. Martin drank the coffee in one fell swoop. He immediately called in the sound wave. Sonic, you can't go back to Cybertron. I have more important things for you to do. Only you can do this thing. Send your soldiers, just lead by Hercules and dig secretly. There are many complicated things inside the Earth, even involving the origin of life on the Earth. But you must pay attention to it. Stop immediately when you are a few kilometers away from the core, and leave the rest to the Earth's core. I will do it. Martin ordered. Sonic silently recorded this passage, and then played it again, until Martin nodded, and he left silently, without a word from beginning to end. Martin sat in a chair. The Earth wants peace. Impossible. Many guys who do things will not let the superheroes stop, and Martin is also secretly laying out the Earth. Some things involve difficult things in the future and need to be done now. Before he knew it, Martin raised his head and looked at the stars of the universe. Some guys can't help it. The depths of the universe. A huge battleship, at the moment, flew in the direction of the World Tree. Malekis quietly looked down at the stars outside, and his dark eyes were clearly full of ambition. Is it too risky for us to go back like this? The adjutant asked in a low voice. Malekis snorted coldly, and said solemnly, no, on the contrary, now is a great opportunity. Martin's infinite gems is broken, and his combat power has fallen to level Godfather. Although it is still strong, it is not incapable of handling it. Returning to the World Tree, our Dark Elves will spontaneously have the divine power of the World Tree, so that they will not be as weak as they are now. This is the best opportunity. Malekis had a cold face, and in his pupils, there was an unknown power that was fleeting, and a strong ambition immediately surged. He will personally start the prelude to the Battle of the Ten Realms. Martin returned to Cybertron. The first thing was to go directly to the core of the Earth and stand in front of the magic ball. At the moment, this golden giant sphere is floating quietly, and data streams of terrifying scale are being transmitted at all times, directly controlling many cities on the entire steel planet. Martin raised his hand and slapped it directly on the magic ball, passing Ultron's consciousness in. Hum. The magic ball immediately made a soft sound. Receive a strange consciousness body. Examine. Trial. Determined as a low-level intelligent life Ultron. In the magic ball, there was a rigid mechanical sound. Compared with such terrifying supercomputers as Magic Ball, Ultron is indeed a shoddy product of inferior quality. Upload Ultron. Set it as an auxiliary intelligent program, and increase the authority to grant it the ability to upload in Cybertron's A-level and lower-level technological creations. Martin said lightly. Order accepted, set up. In an instant, the shape-shifting King Kong of the entire planet received a message that the auxiliary intelligent program Ultron was launched. Now Ultron has become an existence similar to Tony's smart butler JARVIS, but it covers a wider range than JARVIS, directly covering countless technological creations around the world, and is well known to many shape-shifting diamonds. With the computing power of the powerful thinking organs that the shape-shifting diamonds have in their own right, combined with the ubiquitous Ultron program, the effect produced is not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. After solving the Ultron problem, Martin fell into silence again, and developed the Cybertron star silently, continuously multiplying more people from the cultivation barn, and building more mega cities. Compared with the splendor of the previous Cybertron star, this one built by Martin is too desolate. The number of shape-shifting diamonds is too small, so that there are not many mega cities and war fortresses on the entire planet. System. Draw this week. Martin ordered. 3 regional lotteries will be held. Dip. Congratulations to the host for getting the technology, Space Bridge. Dip. Congratulations to the host for getting the Black Super Energy Crystal. Dip. Congratulations to the host for getting the shape-shifting King Kong recorder. 3 consecutive voices sounded. Hey, luck is really good this week. Martin touched his chin, quite surprised. Not to mention the space bridge, the upgrade version of the land bridge. As long as you master the coordinates of the universe, you can instantly transmit people or things to the destination, similar to Bifrost. As for the tape recorder, Martin valued it even more. Sonic, the top intelligence officer, was arranged by him to monitor the various changes of the Earth. He also shoulders the heavy task of digging into the core of the Earth. Taking into account the need to prepare for a series of major events in the future, Sonic gathers wisdom, the top intelligence officer with strength, immediate combat power, and command and dispatch capability, absolutely can't move. But Cybertron really needs an intelligence officer like Sonic. Martin clicked on the data template of the recorder. Recorder, Intelligence Unit, Commander, under the Autobot Core. Character. Humor, Information Screening plus 35%. Height. Meters, Energy, 6.3 million body, healthy. Combat Power. Level 3, famous saying, the music is exciting, my heart dances wildly. Comment. The witty, humorous tape recorder is the backbone of the Autobot intelligence force. He is proud of his intelligence collection work. Although his combat effectiveness is not outstanding, his calm thinking and excellent judgment often enable him to defeat powerful enemies. His number one opponent is Sonic, although he admires Sonic's professional ability. Hey, the most handsome creator in the universe, the second handsome tape recorder in the universe is willing to help you. As soon as the tape recorder appeared, he immediately performed a salute on the spot, with a deliberate exaggeration. You come to serve as the intelligence officer of Cybertron's highest intelligence department, responsible for receiving and processing all forms of intelligence, and at the same time monitoring all the information coming from the universe. Martin has no expression on his face, flattering to the tape recorder, without any waves in his heart. Hey, the most handsome in the universe. Isn't this an obvious fact? As long as he is not blind, he can be overwhelmed by his handsomeness by just looking at it. Subconsciously, Martin looked cold, looked down at his dress, then solemnly adjusted his tie, folded his hands, and put on an indifferent expression of, don't praise me, I know I'm handsome. The tape recorder scratched his head and made a harsh metal rubbing sound. Well, the Soundwave guy is still on the Earth. Ha, then the first intelligence officer in the future must be me. Please rest assured, any disturbance in the universe, I won't let it go. Rumble. The tape recorder strode away to perform his task. There are more and more shape-shifting diamonds, and many shape-shifting diamonds born from the incubator have gradually grown up. Martin touched his chin and walked slowly to the window, silently watching the bustling scene outside. As the capital of the entire planet, the shape-shifting King Kong living here can be imagined, and the peaks of all fields are gathered here. After a while, Wanda is here. I felt a familiar power flashing across the universe, but I'm not sure if I felt wrong. Wanda had some hesitation, and finally hit Martin and said, "Maybe, don't care, where is Pietro?" Martin said, "My brother is still training speed, his speed has grown to 30 times the speed of sound." "It's only 30 times. Pulpy." Martin sighed. He really felt a little desperate for Pietro's speed. He remembered that Pietro, the fastest in his previous life, seemed to be the speed of light. Okay, the speed of light seems to be pretty fast too, a fart. Being a superhero on Earth is more than enough, but it can be put in the entire multi-universe, the speed is simply horrible. Martin's expectation for Pietro to become the Marvel version of the Flash can be regarded as dead. After all, Marvel doesn't have any superpowers, no matter how fast it is. Compared to Pietro, is Wanda really more valuable to him? What are you looking at? Wanda was staring like this, feeling a little flustered in her heart pounding, and her face warming. "I'm looking at the most beautiful flower in the world." Martin looked directly. "You." Wanda couldn't help but stepped back a few steps, but the next second, Martin stepped directly in front of her and pushed her close to the corner. The palms that seemed to be accidentally put on, emitting a fiery light. Outside. The Death Girl was training Pietro rigorously, watching Pietro as tired as a dog, but immediately, her ears moved, and the beast-like senses made her hear something. It was a sound like ruewawu. Suddenly, her mood became worse. "You are slower than a snail, no matter how fast. If you don't reach 40 times the speed of sound, you will be hungry for a week." Malekis took his army and stepped into the domain of the World Tree. This is the return of the Dark Elves after a long time. Malekis himself was sent out directly, following the World Tree all the way down. After arriving in the court, he did not hesitate to go all the way down again. Hela's underworld is already at the bottom of the 9 realms, but few people know that under the underworld, the deepest level of chaos, disorder, and sin hides a terrible dragon. Malekis's dark eyes stared down firmly, and his face showed a sickly madness. The further down the World Tree, the more chaotic and dangerous the rule is, and at the root of the World Tree, there is a magic dragon always gnawing on the roots. Malekis came this time just for this magic dragon. Soon, he went all the way down and finally reached the bottom of the World Tree. Here, even as the level godfather, he felt a heavy sense of depression. "The dragon Nidhogg, I'm here to talk about cooperation," Malekis said in a deep voice. In an instant, the terrible red light suddenly lit up from the darkness, and then, a horrible figure shuttled out. Amidst the bitter roar, that deep and sinful terrifying divine power, after countless years of accumulation, at the moment suddenly burst out. "Dark Elves, you are not dead yet." Nidhogg flew out, the horrible figure that seemed to spread across a world, and after several shuttles, it suddenly stopped in front of Malekis. The black body is as large as a continent. Compared with such a terrifying dragon, Malekis of level godfather looks extremely small. "Join me to bring Ragnarok to the 9 realms, and to bring despair to all the worlds on the ruins of the World Tree." Malekis opened his arms and said in a deep voice. Nidhogg looked down at the little ant indifferently, his blood-red eyes flashing viciously, and the waving of 2 huge amounts of wings behind him caused the 3 realms of the lower court to vibrate. "It has been sealed at the root of the tree for too long, long enough to survive. In order to gain the power to destroy the World Tree, it gnaws frantically at the root of the tree, forcing itself to become stronger in this way." Malekis said in a deep voice. "Odin is dead, Asgard collapsed, and the gods were almost slaughtered by that terrifying guy. The biggest obstacle in front of you has disappeared. In addition, infinite gems has been broken. The good timing. The best, the timing to defeat the whole world." Nidhogg looked down at Malekis coldly, and there was a vague sarcasm in those tyrannical and sinful eyes. In the end, after this confrontation lasted for a long time, Malekis's body tightened. Dao divine power emerged spontaneously. "This evil dragon puts too much pressure on him. Very well, I agree to cooperate with you, but you also have to be ready to be hunted by me. My Nidhogg has always been to destroy the World Tree as my life goal." Nidhogg roared suddenly, and the billowing black light spread upward along the roots of the tree. Malekis breathed a sigh of relief and calmly said, "Definitely, it is my goal to destroy the 9 realms." It didn't take long for me to feel uneasy in many worlds, and began to frantically read ancient books, inquiring about what this mysterious roar from the lowest level was. Soon, they turned out the ancient information that made the faces of several world leaders pale. Swallowing the world. The dragon. It turns out that this monster really exists. Damn it. How could the position of the root of the tree really seal a dragon? What the hell are the 3 realms of the lower court doing? How can they not be wary of such a dangerous monster? A roar of anger came out, coupled with the huge fleet that was vaguely observed. Everyone realized a major disaster that swept the world tree was about to erupt, this time, far more than the collapse of the Asgard continent. That time it was even more terrifying. This time, it is Ragnarok of the entire world tree. Boom boom boom. The sound of horrible vibrations continued to be heard from the mysterious area under the lower court, as if some terrible monster was breaking free from its shackles. After hundreds of millions of years, with terrible anger and hatred, it is about to spread to the whole world. Unfold bloody revenge. I have contacted a lot of guys, the entire 9 realms. No, including our dark elves, the 10 realms will be messed up. This will be the only battle in the 10 realms. You can follow our dark elves. Malekis stood quietly in the distance, watching Nidhogg constantly bite the chains with his hideous teeth, and spoke lightly. No need. Nidhogg smashed the last chain in one bite, and the terrifying dark power was no longer bound, burst out, polluting the world tree, at the moment first roared, and then let out a malicious low laugh. I have already found a servant. That is a very strange guy, but I can feel his ambition. In order to pursue power and strength, that guy is willing to pay all the price. Malekis moved his eyes and asked indifferently, what's that guy's name? It was the power that replaced Asgard. That guy was named Starscream. He had promised to lead the army under his control to launch a rebellion at a critical time and destroy Cybertron in one fell swoop, which is regarded as a gift for me to get out of trouble. This magic dragon shook its body, re-enjoying freedom, spreading its horrible wings. At the moment, it moved all the way up, shaking the entire 9 realms into a tremor. Malekis frowned. When he mentioned Cybertron, he felt a little instinctively jealous and uneasy. At the moment, he flew up and followed the dragon sharply. The guy from Cybertron is unbelievable. How sure are you? Malekis frowned. He has been bewitched and fallen by me. Believe me, in this world, no one can resist my whisper unless it is the top cosmic gods. The contract has been reached the moment he hears my voice. Niederhogg laughed terribly. Malekis still felt uneasy, but looking at such a powerful dragon, he remained silent in the end, and a bit of cold light flashed under his eyes. After disturbing the chaos of the world tree, the next one is to deal with this animal. Huge amounts of dragon-shaped phantoms briefly covered the 9 realms, and the terrifying dark divine power burst out, covering the sky and the sun, and even the light of the fixed star was obscured. The dragon that devours the world. Coming, my loyal servant, it's time for you to dedicate your loyalty to me. Niederhogg immediately whispered to the strange life who had secretly taken refuge in him. Definitely, noble dragon, I will give you the best gift. Starscream stood on a 10,000-meter high building, looking up at the starry sky with a sneer, his eyes flashing with red light clearly revealed a little weirdness. Starscream is indeed a gloomy guy, ambitious and full of superiors. This guy's desire for power far exceeds other shapeshifting King Kong. In fact, he did hear Niederhogg's whisper in the dead of night. This is a whisper that can only be heard by a guy with a gloomy heart, with a thick bewilderment, and a kind of divine power that directly points to the human heart. Distortion and suggestion. Starscream responded to the invitation of the magic dragon, and naturally, a contract was established at that moment. Niederhorn. The guy who brought Ragnarok to the 9 realms in the legend is very good. Only such a guy has the value of being entrapped by me. Starscream stood up slowly, and stared at the deep starry sky with his waist in, almost seeing the eruption of endless war. Suddenly, the entire 9 realms began to tremble, replacing Cybertron where Asgard was stationed on the world tree. At the moment, there was also a slight tremor, which was extremely strange and sudden. In an instant, time and space vortexes appeared. This is your plan. The handwriting is not small, it's just useless. The devil dragon looked down at the 9 realms and snorted coldly, and a terrifying divine power was brewing, forcing Malekis to get farther away. Malekis looked at the magic dragon with a jealous look, constantly evaluating the opponent's strength in his heart. I'm afraid, it's only one step away from level single universe. If this guy really destroys the world tree and swallows the supernatural power rule in the world tree, I am afraid that it will be able to break the bottleneck in an instant and become a noble cosmic god. Malekith's complexion was gloomy, with all kinds of sinister thoughts surging in his head, and he immediately said, "We are not strong enough, and there are only 2-level godfathers, you and me. It is not a good choice to fight the 9 realms at the same time. It's better to let them mess up first. I have won many helpers in the past few thousand years." A black divine wave sprayed out of Niederhog's nostrils, smashing the nearby stars, and the sarcasm in his eyes became more obvious. The 2 ghostly creatures looked at the chaotic 9 realms like this, and saw that the hidden space cracks between the various worlds were opened one after another, and some crazy and huge hatred guys, at the moment one after another moved. Earth. A black light crashed on the earth, and the dark Bifrost, controlled by the dark elves, sent the mighty war witches to the Himalayas. What happened? Dr. Strange quickly returned from the holy place in New York, raised his hand, and the ugly floating cloak that was intertwined with red and green and covered with patches spontaneously flew on him. Wang's face was green and said, "A group of aliens who don't know where they came from are frantically attacking our magic circle, and their magic power is extremely powerful." Steven flew into the air to take a look, and then he suddenly realized, "This is the War Witch of the Dark Elves, the extremely powerful magic team in the universe. We are in trouble." Wang was frightened. But why did they suddenly appear on the Earth? "We have sealed all the cracks in space with magic." Steven didn't speak. A flash of helplessness appeared on his face. What can he do? He is also very desperate. Although he is a supreme magician, he does not have the strength and knowledge reserves of Ancient One at all, and he does not have the time gem that can observe the future and immediately make targeted deployments. The result is straightforward. Let these guys tore open a long-sealed space crack and rushed into the Earth. This feels terrible and shows the incompetence of his supreme magician. Mordu stepped out and said coldly, "I'll deal with them. I will open the portal and attack from the back." "No, I'll take action to solve them." Steven has a calm face and a strong self-confidence. Even Mordor, at the moment, is a little more convinced by him. Steven flew high. His demeanor seemed extremely calm. Raising his hand to draw a circle, there was a large mirror space to resist the magical interference of the witches, forcibly covering the past. Appeared extremely high magical attainments. But in the next moment, the war witches once again blasted out a powerful spell, smashing Steven's mirror space on the spot. Not only that, but also locked the entire magical space around Kamar Taj. Space magic can no longer be used. Damn, they are too cunning. There was embarrassment on Steven's face. Similar scenes broke out in various worlds at the same time. Alfheim, the kingdom of light elves, was invaded by the undead of the underworld, and many light elves angrily took up their weapons and began to fight the undead. "Block these dirty things and don't let them stain our beautiful world." Queen Fei Zewin picked up the longbow, personally charged at the front line. Every arrow can take away a large piece of undead. Losing Lofts Jotunheim, many giants also began to invade frantically. Giants of Utenheim, rock giants, wind giants, etc., directly began to attack the old opponent Warnerheim. Even Cybertron didn't stop. In a cosmic vacuum not far from Cybertron, a gap in space was suddenly torn open, and a large number of flame beings were burning with soaring flames, in this dark universe. Later, there was a powerful breath of level Godfather gushing out from the space cracks, a slender figure, with a little flame on the body, which burned and extinguished from time to time, came out from it. In those eyes, the pupils were directly replaced by 2 balls of flames. "That's it, my father was enslaved by the master here." The leading level Godfather existed looking at the steel planet ahead, with a strong resentment in his eyes. "It's really... damn it. Why does this kind of power suddenly appear in the 9 realms? Still enslaved her father by despicable and shameless means? Your Majesty Queen Sind, are we going to attack now?" A flame life bowed to her. "Now attacking, I will turn this planet into a sea of flames, and I will hang up these weird mechanical beings with my own hands, burn their souls, and liberate my father. My servants, Mooseball Sea Hummers, for me, to liberate my father Sir to attack. Burn everything here." In Queen Sin's eyes, the star-dividing fire was burning. "And I will find Martin and kill the man named Martin with my own hands." Roar. She threw a whip and pointed forward. The countless flaming beings from Muspelheim roared and rushed toward Cybertron, drawing out a light like a meteor shower in the night sky. In the next moment, a piercing alarm sounded on Cybertron. Warning. A crack in time and space is detected, and a powerful enemy is invading. Suddenly in a level incident, the Fire Demon Army raided Cybertron, and now a war mobilization order is issued to all Cybertron residents. The War Aid System Ultron is online to share battlefield information in real time. The alarm was sounded on the entire Cybertron star, and everyone received a war mobilization order. The mechanical sound from the magic ball continued to sound, delivering a large amount of information and real-time images to each soldier. This is a very sudden war, and the Black Bifrost with Dark Elves is enough to transport armies from all walks of life to any area. The entire Cybertron star was alarmed, and a large number of residents moved one after another, with shocked faces, a few with a blank face, but more of them were grinning and sharpening their swords. Clamp stepped out of the Karen Arena with a ferocious look. As the starfighter of the Karen Arena, the world's gladiator master, except for those big guys like the 4-level, Lake Comprehensive Reeling Cable, he is the best. Those who are good at hand-to-hand combat are also more brutal and combative. The fire demon from Muspelheim. Isn't this the Serta guy's world? Forget it, it doesn't matter, it's finally time for Master Clamp to show off his skills. Not only will I be the strongest gladiator, and become the most powerful warrior. Clamp has a hideous and bloodthirsty face, and is ambitious. He wants to be a star gladiator and even a star warrior. Ultron. Integrate the analysis data from the magic ball. I need to know the frontline information. As soon as the Clamp tapped on the screen on his arm, Ultron's head immediately appeared, and a large number of screens were projected at the same time. Muspelheim, the world of flames. The environment is fierce, in which all kinds of flame live, extremely belligerent. According to the observation results, the leader of this flame army should be Queen Sind, the current ruler of Muspelheim, level godfather. It is not recommended to provoke it. You will be hacked to death by her. Ultron glanced sharply, his voice full of coldness. The Clamp was a little annoyed. He tapped the screen hard, and said coldly, Master Clamp can't beat the Queen now. Is it possible that he won't be able to beat the Queen? I found out that your intelligence is too high and it's not a good thing. You appear in the Karen Arena, I will throw you 10,000 somersaults. With a cold snort, the Clamp closed Ultron directly and transformed into a fighter plane with a face full of arrogance. Roar screamed directly into the atmosphere and grabbed a giant battleship rising into the air without going in. It is so attached to the surface of the battleship, showing its weapons, and looking fiercely at the stars of the universe. Shape-shifting diamonds like him are not rare. Although shape-shifting diamonds also need oxygen like human beings, they are not used to suck roar, but to cool the body. If necessary, they can fight directly on their own in a harsh vacuum. On the entire surface of Cybertron, among the few cities, a spacecraft of different file sizes flew up immediately, and some confident guys directly scanned the small flight device and collected the data instantly. It turned into a flight machine in place, and rushed into the starry sky of the universe. And Ultron, an intelligent program, took over the defense systems of major cities for the first time after being authorized. In some 10,000-meter steel high-rise buildings, many terrifying cannons were aimed at the sky one after another. Activation of Class A Warfare Authorization. The application is approved, and it will take over all war weapons in 7 large cities, 19 medium cities, and 43 small cities. Application for Energy Deployment Authority 6. Integrate global battlefield information. Establishing a war database, big data collection. 7.4 million inhabitants information collection. Real-time collection. Logistical operations. Apply to obtain 0.037% of the computing power. The application passed. In an instant, Cybertron, which was supposed to be a habitable planet, suddenly turned into a hideous and terrifying war mode from countless steel buildings. Buildings began to show off all their weapons, ranging from huge cannons to small ones. The connected firearms were exposed one after another, aiming at space in a sudden, every angle changing every moment. And there are countless data streams flashed by, comprehensively obtaining the coordinates, combat power analysis, energy loss and reserve analysis, personality psychoanalysis and deduction of the possible actions of each Cybertron warrior, and proceed accordingly. Global war deployment, and then follow up every weapon in every building, at what angle to fire, and make instant deductions of hundreds of possibilities that may be generated after firing, and formulate tens of thousands of plans. At this moment, Ultron, which has obtained 0.03% of the computing power of the magic ball, directly transformed from the daily life information sharing mode into a war assistance system, and began to count everything. This is an extremely crazy calculation process, tolerant everything. All the content provided can be imagined for the gains of a world-class war. This battle is destined to be huge. This is also the first world-class war faced by Cybertron. Both sides will mobilize a large number of troops, and each will have a world to support itself. Unfortunately, our population is still too small. The tape recorder stays quietly inside the armored dragon, which is transformed into an area of thousands of square meters. There is nothing more convenient than here. He is collecting a lot of information all the time, using the powerful computing power and convenient ability of Ultron, and always paying attention to the war progress. With a population of 7.4 million, excluding 1.4 million infants with insufficient combat effectiveness, it is enough. We have fire support on the surface of the entire planet, and the final victory must be us. Shockwave said indifferently. The tape recorder shook his head. But, I really don't know how many outstanding soldiers we will lose. Sasser stopped his work and looked up and down the tape recorder. The camera-like head kept turning, as if thinking about something. What do you want to do? The tape recorder's heartbeat. Your answer is very inconsistent with a soldier's logic. According to my calculations, there is a 12% chance that you will be dropped. Sasser's stiff voice came out. In just a moment, he was evaluating whether it should be or not. What to do, what to do. Don't doubt that Sasser is such a guy. He is more like a machine than a machine. Everything follows the calculation logic. Once he decides that there is a problem with the logic, he will decisively hurt the killer. Cold-blooded guy. The tape recorder grunted, waiting for him to look again. Shockwave has turned his head away and resumed his work. At the moment, in space, war has broken out.